Aloha, and welcome to Akakū. So this month, January, we have My Partner, the film screening that was, I believe, produced in came out in 2022? 23, okay. And it's been doing the film festival circuit, and some distribution stuff is happening, I understand. And we're very excited to have Lance Collins, the writer, a Maui writer, here with us tonight, who wrote this film, and will be joined later after we see the film by the director, Keli'i Grace, over Zoom. He'll join us for a conversation. So Lance Collins, I would like to ask you about how you got into writing and about the story that we're going to see tonight.
Sure. So I wasn't originally supposed to be the writer for this. We got a grant to do a slice of life in West Maui. And the problem that we had, first of all, it was conditioned on us having a producible script by a certain deadline. And we kept losing writers, and then we got an extension, and then the last writer's like, oh yeah, I'm almost done. And I was like, can you just show me the first couple of pages? And it was like, yeah. Like, give me and then like a month later, he still hadn't done it. And then I was like, okay, like our deadline is like in 2 months or like 6 weeks. It was a very short period of time. And I said, okay, you need to give me whatever you have just so that we're gonna lose the funding. And then he completely ghosted. And so Keli'i's like, well, ask for another extension. And so I asked, and they said, you know, maybe you should come back to us when you're ready. And I was like, oh, that means we're never gonna see this money ever. And so I actually cleared my calendar of everything except the Charter Commission. And I rearranged court hearings and stuff. And I wrote 10 hours a day, 6 days a week for 6 weeks. And I produced an 8-part web series, which was what we got the funding for. They approved it, and then Keli'i said, we don't have enough money to do an 8-part web series. Ask them if we can just do a feature-length film. And so you'll see that I have the writing credit, but then there are 2 other people who took my script and reduced it down into a 90-minute movie. So those are the ones that have the screen writer.
I noticed that you had screenplay. I was going to ask about that, and how your original writing, how they, I see now, it was a webisode or web series, and now it turned into a film, and you needed help with that. But the actual...
Well, I didn't have time. I didn't have time.
Yeah,
it's like...
yeah, the actual inception, though, like the original grant, I'm very interested because it's the first time I'd ever seen this genre of film. And so was the grant for this genre of storytelling?
No, it was totally for a slice of life in West Maui. It was just that I'm the one that wrote it, so I'm the one that got to pick the genre. So it wasn't, we weren't expecting that until after I had written it, yeah.
Is it the first one?
No, this is not actually the first movie I was involved with, and also not the first thing that I've written, but yeah.
Awesome, yeah, wow, you really put your heart and soul into making it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And you said, how much time did you spend writing it then?
10 hours a day, 6 days a week for 6 weeks. Yeah, I'd wake up, I'd go surfing, I'd come home, I would write. Actually, so it was Charter Commission, I couldn't change that. And actually, I also did pro bono for the self-help legal information line that the county bar does. So twice a week, I would volunteer for an hour. So I would take my lunch break around that time, and I would eat and answer questions on the phone. But other than that, that's all I did. I didn't really do very much of anything else. Occasionally there were some emergency things, but for the most part, that's all I did for 6 weeks.
Wow, you're a multitasker, a big-time multitasker. So congratulations. I mean, knowing the backstory on that, that's even a bigger feat that, I wouldn't have known without you sharing that. Talk about how you decided to write the story you wrote.
Slice of life, and there were a couple of things that I felt were important to reflect in West Maui, basically youth cultures, I guess, and so one of it is the experience of the Hawaiian immersion kids, who, of course, I'm sure everybody knows that Lahaina Luna has a Hawaiian immersion program, and there are kids that have gone from Punana Leo then through K through 12 and have graduated in the immersion program. And so part of it was to sort of normalize and show, what it looks like sort of in a realistic fantasy scape. for kids who've gone through the program, like what does their life look like? And then on the other hand, also to reflect the fact that, Lahaina, by far, in terms of census blocks, has one of the largest immigrant communities, and so I wanted to reflect that. And I'm not Hawaiian, I'm part Filipino, so that actually I sort of feel like I'm representing my community. Whereas the Hawaiian part, that's something that I had to get other people involved because I'm not Hawaiian and I didn't go to Hawaiian immersion. So so I wanted that. And why did I pick boys love? I'm not sure if everybody knows or anybody knows what the boys love genre is, but it is a literary genre that came out of post-World War II Japan. The authors were heterosexual women, and the audience or the readers were heterosexual women. And it was a way for these women to fantasize about egalitarian, reciprocal love, romantic love relationships in ways that I guess they didn't feel they could explore in a male-female combination. And so they did it through this male-male combination with very specific tropes that still reflected Japanese attitudes about power and stuff like that. Anyways, it spread throughout all of Asia as different types of media became more accessible. And then in Thailand sort of indigenized it in their own way, and they generate hundreds of millions of dollars a year to the shock of the generals with boys love content. And the Chinese Communist Party has prohibited boys love, and so consequently all of the money that can be used to extract more money all goes to Thailand now and to Korea and to Taiwan. And so anyways, there's a sort of greater Asian co-prosperity sphere in the boys love department that originated in Japan and now sort of circulates throughout Asia. And so this is the first Hawaii boys love. And if you consider Hawaii part of the American mediascape, then it's the first American boys love story. And I should say, with all of that backstory, which you probably didn't need to hear, I'm rambling, I picked it because today, why is it so popular today as opposed to like post-war Japan, which is, like 70 years ago, 80 years ago? And I picked it because today, the people who consume boys love content in literary form or in media form, it's a way for audiences to sort of explore alternatives to patriarchy or heteropatriarchy or heteronormative patriarchy or whatever, to how sort of the dominant forms of gender relations are. And so boys love still is predominantly a popular genre for young heterosexual women in Asia, but there is also a large minority of LGBT, both lesbian and gay, interest in it, but in Asia it is, and it's sort of this way, particularly in Thailand, which I know everybody thinks is like super egalitarian in gender and sexuality issues, but actually it's not. And so that's why it's so popular, boys love, and why it was adopted so easily with some modifications.
That's fascinating. Japan. Actually, you said you thought you were rambling and we didn't need to know that backstory, but actually I found that really fascinating. Thank you. It really, I didn't know any of that. And that's why I said it's the first time I'd watched a film of that genre, and I wondered, what inspired you, but yeah, I can see why you were inspired to do something like that.
Yeah, Hawaii has a different, the reason why I picked it for Hawaii is it sort of has a slightly different connotation, but the idea is to think about gender and sexuality and masculinity in ways that are not, that don't reproduce the Western framework that sort of predominates even in progressive circles. And so that was the idea. I don't know if we were totally successful, but I guess you folks will all be the judge.
Yeah, well, I think maybe we ought to take a look at the film and then that people can come up with other questions after viewing it. So yeah, let's take a look at your film.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Bro, we're only taking a few.
And what? Get licensed.
We don't need a permit to fish here. It's a public access.
Doesn't mean it's okay.
Kona? What the hell, man? You scared the shit out of us.
Good. I was trying to.
What's going on here?
Big bucket. How much you guys planning on taking?
Just what we need.
What you need? You don't need these old food. The stream needs these.
So what? You guys own the stream now?
Ma, my uncles restored the stream so we all can get. You understand?
Exactly. So we all can get.
Too many people have been taken from the stream.
Look, we have enough. Let us take that and we'll go.
Oh, someone's found their voice.
Nah, you guys get plenty. I like to take some.
No waste, bro. We caught this. Go catch your own.
Nah, you guys get plenty. Then take some of these.
Bro.
Kita-kita lang mamaya.
Sige.
Edmar, good job on that test, as per usual. Let's see.
So, what did you want to sing?
So you guys know each other?
Yeah.
Good. You folks will be partners for the final project.
Oh, no ways. I'll find anyone else.
Boys, I have uneven numbers in both of your class periods. Pili, you're smart. But you hold yourself back because you don't want to put in the effort. You need a partner that can challenge you. And I expect you to put in your best work. And Edmar, I'm going to push you. And I know that you are going to meet and exceed my expectations. So I don't want to hear any more complaints. And I expect a fabulous presentation. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah.
Kaipo here?
Wow.
Aloha. So you must be Edmar and Auntie Nona. You can call me Auntie for short. Mahalo for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
And thanks for the ride, Uncle Jack.
Edmar, I got you, bro. Anytime.
So Edmar, you ever worked a Lo'i before?
I used to play in the rice fields when I was little.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where?
In the Locos, back in the Philippines.
Oh wow. Okay. Oh awesome. Well, just so you know, you might be getting a little bit dirty. I hope you're okay with that.
Yep.
And then of course, Pili. Umay ka iko hai anayaya kumoy ka lole kupono ina ma ai. I hope you came ready to work. Okay, come, kalamay. Yeah. Aloha.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Totoo lang.
Ating, nauuhaw ko. Kunin mo nga ako ng tubig.
Ay.
Hindi mo pwede sabihin sa pamilya ko, ha? Ipagbalik na ako kay Ira.
Ano?
Shh!
Ibig mong sabihin, hindi mo natutuloy? Di mo pwede gawin yan. Ang kulantang sina tita.
Hindi mo kasi nagigits eh. Ako na itong pinag-iisipan. Na-realize kong ayaw ko na talaga.
Bakit naman?
Paano ba? Ang gusto ko yung hindi pinilit na magulang. Gusto ko yung ako yung makakahanap. Eh, kung ikaw kaya sinurap nila dito sa isang lalaki.
Yuck! No way.
Mismo.
So, gagawin mo na nga.
Oo. Gagawin ko na.
Di ba pwedeng tumigaw yung Shirley sa mga pop quiz niya? Patapos na nga tong sim, di pa pwedeng relax lang.
Fucking clown! Think you funny, huh? I see you're still stuck in that shirt. Bro, I've had enough of your fucking slick ass mouth. Let's fucking do this, man. Why? Zach, go it. Hold his leg! What? Can we cool? Can we cool?
We gotta help him.
Get him out!
Hey, break it up!
You okay?
Right, I know you're not leaving your fucking shit behind.
You're a fucking
Bro,
bitch.
pick up
Clean
your
it up.
fucking trash! Are you fucking dumb?
Showing off in front of
Bro,
your
I'll
boyfriend,
fucking fuck
darling,
you
huh?
up right now, bro. Fuck! Pick up your shit, bro. Bro, fuck you.
Baka ba natin sila?
Baliw.
Wala kayo dyan.
Ed, wag. What the fuck?
Tara na nga, Sid.
The fuck you want?
They're with us.
Just pick up your trash. Please.
Show some fucking respect and pick up your shit. It's $50,000 fine for receipt terminal. They call the cops on you.
That's right, my uncle's on cop. Fucking back us up no matter what happens today.
Come on, Ryan. Let's just get our shit together.
Better make sure that ends up in the trash.
What the fuck you think I'm
Hey,
doing?
you are in the trash.
Fuck this.
Oh, we didn't need your help. I know. I know how heavy you swing. But we gotta take pride in this island we're living in, right? Fuck those assholes. Oh, you're right. You're quite the little scopper yourself too, bro. We cool?
We're about to eat too. Come join us.
I mean, I'm already eating, so might as well, right?
Yeah, we go.
Kalo is also an important crop for many people in parts of the Philippines. Like before, it was believed that the rice terraces had existed for thousands of years.
Subukan mo. Masarap yan.
But, as it turns out that, Ed,
The modern people in the Philippines grew taro until very recently in their terraces.
in sum, taro is a source of strength for the Hawaiian people as it connects us to land and First Man.
Maintaining lo'i supports a traditional way of life for Hawaiians and also helps ensure a healthy ecosystem because a healthy kalo patch signals the health of the land.
Mahalo.
Thanks, everyone.
I just want to say good job. I knew you two would make great partners.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Actually, Keli'i, welcome. And I did have a question for you to maybe first give us a little background. I know you're not a first-time director. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. I'm not a first-time director, though. That was my partner was my first feature film I directed. I've done a bunch of shorts, and I don't only do film. I do a lot of commercial work, and I'm just around just the production side of things. So I do all sorts of other things related to production, but film work is always a lot more time consuming. So I can't do as many of these projects as I would like to. But yeah, this was my first feature film.
Well, congratulations. I thought it went really well. I also see that you were the editor.
Yes, yes. This film was difficult in a way where we had a plan, but there was just a lot of holes that needed to be filled. And I'm very picky when it comes to the editing side. But if you were to watch our original version that we showed the first time in Maui, it'd be twice as long and a lot more slow motion of Kaipo coming out of the water. It was a mess before. So yes, I did edit the film. I edit most of my closer projects. I usually edit myself.
Well, I was very impressed. Do we have questions from the audience? Great.
Hi, I really liked the film. It was just so touching and sweet. And I want to know, what was the most difficult part of making this film?
Remember, this is recorded and it's going to be on TV.
Gosh.
No, go ahead. You're the director.
Difficult. Gosh, if I was to pick any one difficult part of the film, it would probably be the process of making sure what we're doing is okay. And a lot of the work that I do, especially connected to Hawaii, I just have to really make sure what we're doing is okay to put out in the public. Because, I always think that just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. So it's a lot of questions that I ask myself throughout the process. Like, are we doing the right thing? Is this going to be okay once it comes out? Are people going to be offended? If they are, then how can we help? Or is it going to touch people in a good way or in a not good way? So I think that was the most difficult part for me, was just going through that process of making sure, I'm responsible as a filmmaker, because, once you do it, then you can't really take it back. And it is out there in the world now, publicly on streaming platforms. So for me as a filmmaker, that's a really huge responsibility, because this will get shown once I'm gone, And again, with Lahaina being not there anymore, as you would see on a lot of those images, that's always difficult to watch, but just taking on that responsibility, that's really probably the hardest. But once you go through the process and you feel good about it and you feel right, then what you get in return is a lot greater, I think, than all the sort of stuff you take on the on your shoulder. It's worth it in the end, is what I'm trying to say. So that for me would be the hardest.
Okay, the part that I think is the hardest is actually the very last part. I mean, this actually does tie into earlier parts, but it really is the very last part because, and I think I'll use Akakū as the counterpoint. So, you know, the media industry heavily controls the kinds of viewpoints and stories that can be told. That's the whole point of like PEG Access here, is that it's supposed to be a way for grassroots community, just any kind of media. And so what has been the biggest struggle have been certain sort of elites that control what kinds of stories get told. So for example, we were rejected from almost every American LGBT film festival because the same upper class, upper middle class, white male, cis male elite have a very particular viewpoint. And because, for example, like the word gay never appears in our story, and we don't go through the Western, you know, coming out narrative and like, what is my identity and what does that mean for whatever, it conflicts with certain ideological commitments that the people who control all of these film festivals in the US have. And that's just an example of this broader thing of who gets to decide whose stories are told. And so I found that with this, it's wonderful. We've been shown all over the world and we've gotten awards. The ones we've gotten in the US have primarily been from working class controlled film festivals. But yeah, it's that part I found to be very frustrating because, for example, our film was pirated and appeared on a Russian and a Chinese pirated film site, and like more than 500,000 people watched our film. But we can't get into any American LGBT film festival. I mean, it's like totally great. People are like pirating it all over the world, but we can't get into any film festivals in the US. And I should also say, actually, we struggled with the Asian American film festivals also for slightly different reasons than the American LGBT film festivals. But that's something that I found to be the most frustrating about this is you don't really understand how much, you know, the billionaires and our techno-feudal overlords really control things. And then when there is a little space on the margins, then that's controlled by some other, you know, professional managerial class that's like class patrolling. And so you don't, like the types of viewpoints that people are able to tell stories of and you're able to see are narrowly limited because of the role of capital and the role of who controls who gets to see what. So I have found, sorry, I didn't mean to go off, but I do find that to be very, very frustrating about this process, is that.
And this isn't something you saw when you wrote it.
I had no idea. Actually, while we were going through it at first, I'm like, why do we keep getting no's? And why? It's like, I mean, yeah, it took quite some time to really understand that what this really comes down to is, you know, it's the war of position, you know, Gramsci's term. So
Wild.
Yeah.
That's really wild. That when you wrote it, you thought, oh, there might be a market for this, or people might enjoy this, and then it wasn't until it was out there and you started to, you know, try to get into these festivals that you realized that you kind of sounds like you understood that about the media landscape and who controls it, but you didn't realize that
it extended to the film festival universe. Yeah, apparently it's just a smaller Matryoshka representative of this bigger thing. Yeah, instead of it the feudal, techno-feudal overlords, it's the, you know, mid-level, you know, feudal vassals.
Gatekeepers.
Gatekeepers.
Yeah, definitely gatekeepers. Before I start asking questions, because I have some, does anyone in the audience have a question for either the director or Lance? Kelly?
Question. So, you know, it's baffling that this wouldn't be accepted by LGBTQ film festivals, especially. And so, not that you would want to do anything different, but what do you think you could have done differently to get it accepted if you had been willing to do something different?
In terms of like the movie, or in terms of like organizing the masses and overthrowing
of making the movie? If the film wasn't if the film wasn't accepted as it is, what could you have done? What, in your mind, what could you have done to make it accepted by? I mean, this is your audience.
No, it wouldn't have been possible. there's nothing in this story would have been possible that would have not have destroyed the fundamental character of it. Yeah, because that was the whole point of the boys' love genre, was stepping out of the Western framework. Yeah, it would have been a completely different story. Yeah, so it would have, I don't know exactly how, but it would have been a completely different story, because instead of it being a romance about two boys that, sort of accidentally fall in love with each other, it would be about either Pili or Edmar's, what is my identity as a LGBT, acronym, and what does that mean in terms of whatever the new central drama would be. And that wasn't, the point of this was to show a slice of life and cover things like Hawaiian immersion. And the fishing story, I don't know if everybody remembers, just before COVID, there were Filipinos that were stripping all of the o'opu out of like Kahoma stream, and actually also in Honokohau. And then they were trying to sell it, and then it was in Maui news multiple times. So the idea was to actually like tell these, like weave a slice of life story about West Maui. It just happened because I was the one writing it that we got the BL part of it told in that way. But it's not really a Western like gay coming of age story. So to make it that, it would have destroyed in my view, the story. And maybe Keli'i has a different view, but that's my view.
I wanted to ask a question of you too, Keli'i. A lot of the actors were first-time actors, maybe in a feature film. It looks like it was mostly local. You found most of your talent here locally. It looked like the crew, after I read the credits, I was like, well, a lot of people out of Hawaii you put to work and stuff. How was it working as a director in your first feature film with new actors? I thought the acting was awesome. I really thought it came together really well.
Well, thank you. It was difficult in a way that because they're not actors, they're not trained on anything with production at all. They just didn't understand what it meant to be on a set. But with that, it kind of created a different feeling on set. It became more of like a family environment, I would say. Everyone became close with each other. My crew we're already close. Like that's all. I'm very close to all the people I work with. So, it's kind of like a family. But when the actors all met, no one knew each other. But at the end of shooting, everyone became really good, close friends. So what you see unraveling on the film is actually happening in real life. Like Pili and Edmar, they actually got closer. There was a lot of friendships made, and there was a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of drama, but there was some drama here and there between people. So I tried to play that into each person's role, and I put people in their roles where I felt that they didn't really have to act. So it'd be easier on me because it was during COVID. We didn't have a lot of time to be in person, to just rehearse or block or anything like that. So I just try to place people where I thought fit them and their real personalities. So if you were to meet any of these people on the street, they're basically that's how they are in real life, which is why it becomes so entertaining, because you're really seeing the true person. Like Charisse, who plays Mai, the girl cousin. She's really like that. She had a crush on Kaipo, and I just really kind of played that off more. I'm like, oh, you think Kaipo's attractive? Okay, then I added this, I added that. So working with people that haven't acted before is kind of fun in a way, because it feels less of like a job, but it is a lot more time consuming because they have no idea what to do on set. You have to kind of hold their hand. But it does become a little bit more fun and sort of a lighter environment and less like serious. But also with it not being as serious, it could kind of get off track, and Lance could probably say some things about that. But there's definitely pros and cons, and I thought that with this film, it would really fit if we had people that weren't really actors but could fit that, that position. As long as they wanted to be in the movie, I think we would have been fine.
Well, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to me that you were able to get consistency in the characters throughout the entire feature. Especially knowing you're a first-time director, that you were able to get people true to character throughout the whole thing. But also, what was the process of casting? Right? Like somebody, I don't think that was your role, or was it your role too? Were you also a director casting?
Yeah. It was mine and Lance's role, but Lance can go into depth on this story.
Yeah, so this is my famous story about casting. So actually, they were supposed to speak Ilocano, the Filipino kids, because Ilocano, until quite recently, is actually the dominant Philippine language in Hawaii. And I previously taught in the Ilocano language and literature program. So it was going to be in Ilocano. The problem we had with the casting was when we did the casting call, we got no responses for Ilocano, Hawaii-based Ilocano speaking people. And I really penetrated all networks and like my family networks and even people that I thought, and there was we had one, but he wasn't available because he was doing a stage play somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. But basically nobody could. And Keli'i's like, we gotta change something here because I don't have any Filipino kids for the thing. And so he eventually persuaded me after some time to switch to Tagalog, which I was like, oh, I'm gonna be crucified by my colleagues in the Ilocano language universe. But we did switch it. And then it was like overnight, there were hundreds of responses. And I think what the reason was that because Keli'i advertised it as a BL, and in the Philippines, the gay/queer cinema has appropriated BL as like the new way of marketing queer cinema. And so I think that people here in Hawaii that are like, oh, this is a BL thing that might want to act, the first thing they thought is like, oh, this is going to be some kind of soft porn. And so in the Ilocano community is very tight-knit and in some ways insular, and so I just think that people didn't respond because they're like, oh, I don't want my breakout role to be some like gay porn. So anyway, so that was a switch, and so we switched to Tagalog, and then it turned out that 2 out of the 3 boys actually are native Ilocano speakers, but it was complicated, so by that point it was too late to switch back.
And were all your actors and actresses from the islands?
Yes.
Hawaii Islands?
Yeah, everyone lived on island. I think only 1 or 2 or a few were off island, but we did shoot half on Oahu and half on Maui. So, but everyone is from Hawaii, has lived in Hawaii for a long time. But yeah, it's all 100% local, everyone. And that was really my goal. Usually my goal for anything that I create like this is I want to make everything 100% local as much as possible.
Well, good job. A lot of people are interested in filmmaking, and we don't see a lot of films. There's maybe a handful that I can think of that have actually been feature films done in Hawaii using local crew, et cetera. What do you have to say to the people that are trying to obtain the success of getting a film done, getting a crew together, getting local actors, coming together and making this happen? And it sounds like it was kind of, so to speak, in a jiffy, since you had a crash course in writing this thing quickly, finding the screenwriters to translate it into a screenplay for video, and getting like someone like you who is willing to step in to do your first feature, finding all these people. Do you want to speak to a little bit of that?
Well, for me, and Lance also helps on this, is just being persistent. I think we got on each other, mostly Lance on me, in getting things done because it's just a lot. It's a lot of work to do something like this. Any production project, but especially a feature film with limited budget. You just gotta really not give up, be persistent. because it's hard. Yeah, there's no like book on how to do it, especially in Hawaii. Hawaii is different because people can actually make things, but there's just a lot of red tape everywhere you go, especially if you're making a story that has to deal with Hawaii and Hawaii issues. So it's just don't give up. I don't know. There's not much else advice because once you get down to like the technical side, that kind of stuff is probably easier for me because I've been doing this for so long. But just being persistent on following through and and having deadlines. There was a pretty strict deadline. We got everything done and shot within the year, probably less than a year, and we had to show it in Maui, even if it wasn't the final cut. So there was a lot of pressure put on me individually to get it done. So and I thrive on pressure, unfortunately, but that's really what got the project finished in time, and it didn't take so many years.
You seem pretty cool under the collar to me. Did you want to speak to that before I take another question?
I'd like to talk about the story for a minute, and I hope this isn't too un-PC. But I like the way you wove the Filipino culture and the Hawaiian culture together. I learned a lot. But I'm wondering why Pili's macho friends and Edmar's macho friends didn't tease the two boys about their love affair.
Okay, there's two parts to the story. So the writer's uncut version is because in the web series, they actually end up themselves falling in love, which is a BL trope, is that you don't just have one pair, it starts multiplying and everybody gets infected. And so that's the uncut writer's version, but I would say without looking beyond the curtain, in terms of that's part of this boys' love genre. So that's exactly it. And actually I won't mention her, she's a retired law professor that came and saw the community screening in Honolulu. And she came up to me afterwards and she was like, I was absolutely so certain that they were gonna like drive off a cliff or something. Like I didn't know what was gonna happen, but I was certain that like, as we got closer to the end, that like we were gonna get slammed with awful. Or something, right? And so that's part of the Western narrative. It's like this, in some ways, I'm sure someone's going to be very offended by this, probably in the LGBT community, but there's like this imitation of Christ-like thing where it's like, oh, I have to go through this like tribulation of suffering and I have to be, my community has to like crucify me and then I'm resurrected as an openly gay man or something like that. And so the tropes of like, oh, well, the macho friends are bullying their friends would be part of that, like the suffering part of the dynamic. But in boys' love, that's completely absent because the male-male romance is generally completely normalized, at least among the friends. I mean, there's all sorts of stories where the parents don't accept it and stuff, but generally the tropes in Asian boys' love is that that's part of the masculinity thing, is that like, it's not an issue. There's other issues like oh you're keeping secrets from me, like what Cedric says in the video game scene. That would be an example. It's like he's hurt and he's mad because it's like, oh, you're not sharing your important intimate secrets with me anymore. That kind of thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I saw the long version. And now since the fire, for me, Lahaina has become like another character in the movie. It's an iconic location. So I'm wondering, since the fire, has the fact that it was filmed in Lahaina, set in Lahaina, added to the appeal of the movie?
Yeah, I thought the timing when I first watched it, reviewing it for tonight, the timing. I mean, I guess you said you were shooting during COVID. It came out in 2023, and then like you gave the warning at the front end for anyone, like you will see Lahaina prior to the tragedy. yeah, what has been the take locally for people other than this viewing tonight on the timing and seeing Lahaina the way we're seeing Lahaina?
Maybe Lance has more on that, because I haven't been to actually a lot of public screenings. But I do know as soon as the fires happened, you know, of course, we're just trying to see if each other was okay. But I told Lance, like, you know, what do we do now? Like, how do we present this? I didn't want to present it in a way where we're trying to, where it seemed like we were trying to ride on, you know, a tragedy. So I kind of wanted to gently push it out and just mention like this is Lahaina, you know, before the fires, and you know, I didn't want to really push it out too hard in case anyone was affected, especially by that. So yeah, that was my mindset as soon as that happened. But like I said, Lance was at a lot more in-person screenings, so Lance, you probably have more to add.
Yeah, so we had 2 Hawaii screenings after the fire. One was the Honolulu Rainbow Film Festival, it was in September. And then we had the Hawaii International Film Festival screening in October. And you know, I don't think, you know, I don't think it was an issue. I know at all of the film festivals outside of Hawaii, you know, I always, you know, asked, oh, can I say something before it starts? And I would tell people that, you know, the point of this was to do a slice of life, and without knowing what was going to happen to Lahaina. And so, although it's not a true story, it basically, you know, especially for Lahaina people, it has all of these memories, and nobody ends up driving off a cliff at the end. It's like a happy ending. So it's a way, you know, with the idea of rebuilding and restoring a community. It's basically a node in the psyche of the community to help remember like things that are happy, possibly complicated or complex or difficult, but the resolution of the story is a happy ending. And so it's like, it's just one node to help the community to basically, you know, a point to hook onto to rebuild. And then for everybody who's not from Lahaina or doesn't know about Lahaina, this is an opportunity to partake in basically a happy memory of how Lahaina was. So that's how it was presented.
Like seeing a beloved. For me, it was like seeing a beloved family member again.
I'm wondering, what is your greatest hope for this film? For me, it touched my heart and mind on so many levels. Culturally, indigenous, human relations, unity, environmental even. But I'm just wondering what your passion is for its reach and effect.
No, go ahead. You can go first.
Gosh, you know, when Lance asked me if I would be interested in it, I had to think about that for a while. You know, first feature being a BL. But that wasn't really the most difficult part to agree to do it. I think it was just how this might affect people in the future, and it's affected people in more ways than I ever thought it would. You know, with Lahaina happening, with people, and someone spoke earlier about, you know, why weren't the friends, you know, teasing and all that. There were a lot of people that were affected in a way that they could almost see what might be able to happen if they had gone through that situation. So there were a lot of people that had almost the opposite effects happen to them in real life, in coming out with their family or friends, just not having support. So it kind of, to me, I think when you create a movie like this, you're almost like giving what future you want to have. It could be negative or positive. So I try to always have at least happy endings with projects that I do, or at least a safe space to go after, and not leaving someone just in the dark or in a negative space. Because really, when you're putting this out in the universe, it's a lot of energy because it is played all over the place, and people think about it. So if we leave this piece out in the world, at least there's something positive and things that people may have not seen before, where you don't see friends and family putting each other down or teasing. That could be a reality for a lot of people in the near future. So that's really what I hope this film can do, is create some change, create conversations that could lead to change. And a lot of the things that we brush upon in the film, it's real life issues, especially in Hawaii. So, I just hope that it can bring light to some of these issues and hopefully lead to a positive ending or a positive beginning.
Yeah, and I would just add to that. So intellectually, the idea was, if you want sort of the dominant perspective to change, you have to basically fill all of the networks. The ideological networks, the philosophical networks, the values, everything has to be filled with content that reflects that, right? Because that's what's constantly being reproduced by, the centers of power. So that's intellectually, and the idea is that, yes, to like celebrate things like solidarity and people understanding they come from different, spots, but together we can build a better world. So that was intellectual. And then when we had several of the smaller community screenings like Molokai, Hana, these small rural communities, and there would be these aunties and uncles who like 25 years ago were part of the Alliance for Traditional Marriage. And I was like, okay, I feel very uncomfortable if we're gonna be watching this movie. And some of these aunties and uncles were, they were like crying at the end of it. And it was this, and so it wasn't an intellectual thing. It was like, oh, actually there's quite a bit of space for mutual understanding and solidarity when we are given the opportunity to tell our stories and share them with one another in that space that doesn't get reduced to electoral politics or something like that. And so actually for me on an emotional level, it had the effect of what I intellectually was hoping for and not expecting for myself. So that was very healing for the younger me in many ways, but also for, as Keli'i said, a lot of people had reactions that were, for me, a little bit unexpected or unanticipated.
I imagine as a filmmaker, that kind of impact feels good. To have, especially like you said, intellectually, you thought one thing, but probably won't happen. But then you actually see in real time you see some change in people that you wouldn't expect it from. I wanted to ask about the, you said you came on, it took you a while to figure out Keli'i, whether you do it. I'm not sure exactly all the reasons. And then you said you
had to get permission from his wife.
Persevere. You needed to persevere, and there was tight deadlines. Talk a little bit about the deadline and the budgeting for this project. You mentioned a grant earlier before we started seeing the film. And then you talked about persevering and meeting deadlines. So was a grant funding the one putting the deadline on it? Because you said you had to you'd submitted the grant for one vision of a project, and then you had to go back and ask, hey, is it okay if we do this or that or the other? Talk about the deadline and then your budgeting, funding sources.
So the deadlines were per the contract from the funding, the grant funding. So in order to get the funding, we needed to follow, these strict deadlines, or else, we wouldn't get the funding. So, Lance, you're gonna have to come in on this, but we started in the middle of the year, I think, and we needed to finish the whole film and show it publicly by the end of the year.
Yeah, in West Maui.
In West Maui,
Yeah.
and that's what one of your viewers have watched. So, and this was a huge screening. This was like 700 plus people, I think. So that was the pressure that we're under. The other pressure was the budget. It wasn't a micro budget, but for a feature, it was a small budget, of course, under $1 million. So, anyone that's familiar with making a feature film, it's really hard to make it low budget, which, all the music you heard is either taken from Lance's previous projects, or it's friends of mine that donated music, or I've had to work and do trades for. I do a lot of music videos, so there's actually a lot of music videos that are connected to the songs because I had to give back. But it's a lot of those kind of favors that I had to do along with, just making the film. But that's what comes along with doing something like this. I hate to call it a passion project because, people think passion projects, you're not going to get paid anything, but everyone did get paid on the crew, on the cast. It's not a Disney film budget, but we did make sure that everyone was compensated. But yeah, it definitely takes a village and close friends to help with something like this. That's why I say it's like a family, because really you ask family for favors, but you have to return the favor too. So, but yeah, that was. I should have said that was the most difficult thing with this film. It was tough, but we got through it.
From a number of places. It was more than one grant. Yeah, it was the entities that were shown at the end of the film. So, yeah, and many people have asked, and as far as I understand it, those entities are never going to be doing another film type grant in the future. So people have asked, and we just happened to walk through a wormhole. So, yeah.
Well, I thought it came out really well. Do we have any last questions for?
The young people that you had that were, the 6 boys and the kind of the main stars, are they aspiring actors and actresses? Are they going on to bigger and better career? Is that what they want to do?
Well, I'm sure that's what they all want to do. Kaipo actually, so Keli'i also directs Merry Monarch, and in 2023, our trailer was shown as a commercial during Merry Monarch, and that was right at the time where in the live remake of Lilo and Stitch, they canned the David Cavanna kid because when he was like 12, he had a Spotify playlist that had the N-word or whatever. So they canceled him, or the Disney people canceled him, and they were looking for somebody new. And our trailer, this is what Kaipo told me, I don't know if it's true. Our trailer was showing on Merry Monarch, and one of the casting directors was like, we have his headshot, we have to find his headshot. And so they found his headshot, and he's going to, when Lilo and Stitch comes out in a couple of months, he's David Cavanna, which has a much bigger role than it did in the cartoon. So Kaipo, who does community acting, along with Kawi Kaina, who plays the mom, they are actors, and Kaipo continues to do community acting in Honolulu, in addition to now the fact that he's this Disney star. But I think the rest of them would like to be, aspire to be actors.
Inspire them now to
and I think
find the
Jayron
career
has
path.
participated in 1 or 2 UH student plays, but other than that, I'm not familiar with anybody having any other acting.
No, sorry, one more add to that. Kaleo who plays the angry Hawaiian boy. He's not really that in person, by the way. He got a pretty big part in that new show called Awana in Waikiki. And that was, you know, I'm not saying that was only from my partner, but he did ask for, you know, clips and all this stuff. He's a really hard worker, but he's aspiring to be out in the spotlight more as well. Charisse, who played Mai, the little cousin, the girl cousin, she has done a bunch of short films after that. But yeah, everyone is not camera shy, as you can tell. So everyone does want to be on camera at least a little bit more.
Yeah, and Charisse was actually, she just finished her reign as Miss Hawaii Filipina. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was one more question from someone here? Okay, great.
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to compliment you folks on an amazing show. I am born and raised from Lahaina, and I don't like to watch any of the documentary things about what Lahaina was or what it is now. I like to see what it was and what it was remembered for. And just like he said, you know, it's like when someone passes away, you want to see them for who they are and remember them for who they were and not opposite. So awesome job on that. But the storyline, I thought it was so amazing because it resonates a lot with us growing up, being from Lahaina, going to Lahaina Luna, running that campus. Like it hit home. And I like that you changed the narrative on how we probably should have been when we were growing up, when our family members were, you know, either going to be gay or lesbian, and we weren't the ones picking fun at them. So I love how you changed the narrative on that, and it kind of taught me, and I hope it teaches other people to also do the same. So, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's nice. We're going to wrap the evening. Let's give a round of applause to our creators here. And we look forward to what you guys do next in the content creation space. Is there any last thing you both would like to say?
No, just thank you guys so much for you know, taking time out your evening to watch the film. We really appreciate that. Sorry, I just wanted to add to that last comment. I appreciate that. You know, one person that was a big help on this film, he was in the film, actually. I put him in the film purposely, Daryl Fujiwara. He played that one guy that was in the Filipino store. He was very helpful. Him and a few other people, because they grew up in Maui, I really tried to learn like what happened back then, like how was it back then? Because I really try to make everything as accurate as possible. So I'm glad that you shared that. You know, you could feel that's how it was growing up, and you know, I try to do that with everything I create, just have that authenticity, but also to create maybe a space that we would like to see more of in the future. So no, just thank you for that last comment, and everyone else who's there watching and participating. Just want to mahalo all you guys.
Thank you. Lance?
And Akakū, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank Akakū for you know, holding space for basically people who don't have access to the big money media scape to be able to tell their stories and to be able to help other people in our community tell our stories. So I just want to thank you folks for being here tonight and for Akakū for everything it's done over the years.
Mahalo nui. Aloha.